Well, Andrew, are you ready?
I don't know. Feels a bit tiring. Maybe I'll give the season a miss. Only the perfect episode could bring me back.
Oh, come on. What can I do to convince you to come back onto the show? Maybe a Zelda month?
Nah.
Double your salary?
You don't pay me.
Oh yeah, neither I do. What about if we dress up as hedgehogs and destroy a killer space station?
Wait a second, you just want me to do an episode on Sonic, don't you?
You know me so well. Well, let's stay safe, awesome, and hydrated.
Don't tell me you already prepared a catchphrase.
Heck yeah, I did. And everybody loves it. Welcome to Satsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Satsunami. My name's Satsunami and living and learning with me is none other than the hedgehog expert himself. It is Andrew. Andrew, welcome back.
Gotta speak fast.
I like it. Approved. Yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I just recently came out of the cinemas watching the brand new Sonic the Hedgehog movie and was probably the oldest one there that didn't have kids. So that was an experience. But yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, you have no idea how much I can relate to that sentiment. As someone who went to the early showing of this film, yeah, it was a sobering experience. For the record, and your honour, for the record, I did go with my partner to see this film, but we were probably the oldest, other than, of course, the parents that took their children who were very unenthused by the film, but we will get on to that later.
The parents of the children.
A little column A, a little column B, you know. It was a bit of a mix, except for the one child that I have to shout out in this episode who, when Shadow the Hedgehog popped up on screen, he yelled out, "Look, it's Shadow!" Which, honestly, I think we were all thinking that at that point. But anyway, yes, of course, today we are talking about the utterly hyped, utterly fantastic Sonic the Hedgehog 3. But before we get on to talking about this film, and I have so much to gush over about this film as a Sonic fan, I know, shock horror, I am indeed a Sonic fan. Next week, Water is Wet, and Andrew is a Zelda fan. You know, other shocking news incoming. But before we get into our thoughts on the film, I've got to ask you, Andrew, what is your experience with the Paramount Sonic the Hedgehog films? Because I'm going to be honest, they were quite controversial, and I mean that in the loosest term possible, but they were quite controversial when they were teased with the ugly Sonic model, then the actual film came out. What was your experience? Did you watch them at the time, or are you a new believer?
I'm certainly a new believer. I remember all the kind of discussion, controversies around the ugly Sonic when he was first debuted, and then the quick back to the drawing board, better fix him in post design of Sonic. That is what was been the main talking point around him, and it took a very long time until I eventually watched the movies. The first one came out, the second one came out, and it wasn't until around midway through this year that I watched the first one, and I enjoyed it. I was like, actually, this is a very cute movie. I think this is quite fun. And I encouraged my partner. I said, hey, I think you would enjoy it. We should watch that together. And so I rewatched it with her a few months later, and she enjoyed it. And I said, all right, well, I think I'm going to try and see this third one that's coming out in December. So this was around October, November time. I said, I want to watch the second one now so I can be kind of prepared for it. And so we then watched that one. And to be honest, I had less enjoyment with that one than I had the first one. I still think it was a decent movie, but I tolerated it as a whatever kind of thing. And then was ready and raring to go for the third one. I was actually quite excited for it. I didn't have the same kind of history with Sonic as you did, but I was still a fan of Sonic. I knew the games, knew the characters, all those things. I watched the cartoon, at least one of the cartoons when I was a kid. But yeah, what about yourself?
My story begins in 1995. No, I'm kidding.
When you were 3?
When I was 3, no. Actually, in all seriousness, it probably would have been, maybe 1999, whenever Sonic Adventure came out for the Dreamcast, because it was actually my brother who had it. He did have the original for the Sega Genesis and everything. I liked it enough. I watched the cartoons growing up, but I think Sonic Adventure was the turning point that sealed the deal for me, where I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. And don't worry, Pandalorian listeners who have heard me talk about this a million times, you can indeed listen to our Sonic Month episodes. And ironically enough, we recorded the Sonic Month episodes with our mutual friend Adam. We ended up talking about the films, the first one and the second one, and I have to say I wasn't really too interested. And this will sound really weird because I'm a massive Sonic fan, but when the first film came out, I heard about Ugly Sonic and everything. I really wasn't that interested. I kind of thought, do I want to watch it? Nah, probably probably not. And I actually didn't watch it until, I want to say, COVID time, like 2020, maybe early 2021 max. In fact, it might have been late 2020, but genuinely, I had zero interest in this film. And then I watched it, and I'm going to be honest, I thought the first one was okay. It was very by the books. It was cookie cutter. Well, not cookie cutter, but you know what I mean. It was very buddy CGI animal road trip film, like the Smurfs or Hop.
Hop is what came to my mind.
Yeah.
I had listened to your Chatsu short, spoiler-free review of this, and when you were talking about the buddy animated friend movie, I was like, I've not even seen it, but the first movie that comes to mind for some reason is Hop.
Yeah, it's always Hop. I don't know why.
Is that also John Marsden?
Oh, James Marster. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's like the main guy in that. Not the rabbit for legal reasons. But yeah, it is him.
The rabbit's Russell Brand, isn't it?
Yeah, sadly. Fortunately, he is not in this film, right enough. But yeah, I remember watching this film. And again, I thought, yeah, it's okay. And then I was semi-excited for the second one because I heard the second one was going to lean a lot more into the games and things and the lore behind that. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And unfortunately, I got struck with a really bad stomach virus. I don't know if I told you this story.
I don't know.
My partner and I were ready to go see it. I booked the tickets, and yeah, then I got struck with this really terrible bug, so I couldn't go to see Sonic on opening day. So I was avoiding spoilers like the plague. But I remember Adam telling me, oh, by the way, see, when you get to the end of this film, you're going to be so happy at this film. So I was really excited to see it. We eventually got to see it in the cinema. Again, I was probably pushing the average age of the room up. Lots of kids standing there and flossing. And spoilers for the second film, but at the end, we get introduced to Super Sonic and everything and the Chaos Emeralds. And that, honestly, that blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, they're finally going there. But then when they introduced Shadow in the post-credit scene, that made me lose it. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be such a peak film when the third one comes out. And of course, it was weird because they were saying, oh, it's going to be in 2024. It's going to be ages away. And time is a flat circle these days. But yeah, for 2 years, genuinely, there was nothing on this film, by the way. And you'll know how rabid some Sonic fans are. Any scrap of promotional material, and they were there posting it all over the place. Like leaks for Happy Meal toys, leaks for scripts, that kind of thing. They were trying to post everything, but it was all very much a nothing burger. And then it wasn't until 2024 the Knuckle series came out. I'm going to be honest, I would not really recommend the Knuckle series. Did you see anything about it?
I don't really know much about the Knuckle series, no. It kind of just passed me by, and I didn't have Paramount Plus, and so didn't really have a way of watching it, and wasn't interested enough to find it by alternative means.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of these shows that you watch it and then you go, who was this made for? Because there's a distinct lack of Knuckles and more of a focus on the human characters, let's say, and their bowling tournaments. I'm not even making that up, by the way. That is genuinely what happens. So weird. But we didn't really get any trailers or any spoilers until the last month of Sonic coming out. Yeah, it was bizarre. It was a really weird way to market it because we had nothing, and then all of a sudden Paramount and everybody distributing it just threw all of the trailers at our faces, and then it was almost like an overload where it was kind of spoiling things that probably shouldn't have been, like Robotnik working with Sonic, but finding out that Robotnik was alive in the first place, that kind of thing. So maybe it was a bit much, but I mean, before we get into it, what did you think about the marketing? Did you notice it, or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the marketing was around Sonic being in it. Sonic being in it.
Well, I would hope so.
A lot of the marketing was around Shadow being in it, and then also would see the dance scenes, the dance with Gerald Robotnik and Eggman a lot. Those are the two main things I knew about the movie, that Shadow was in it and about the Gerald Robotnik stuff. Well, it was then very weird how they try to keep that it was Gerald Robotnik kind of a secret throughout the movie, because I was like, all the marketing has been very much showing off the fact that Gerald Robotnik is in this and that he is also played by Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I don't know how I feel about that. See, without any further ado, will we just jump into Fly to to the moon and take down this space station, as it were.
Yeah, I think there's no other place to go but up.
And of course, we will be right back after these transmissions. Welcome to Satsunami, a variety podcast that discusses topics from gaming and films to anime and general interests.
Previously on Chatsunami, we've analysed what makes a good horror game, conducted a retrospective on Pierce Brosnan's run as James Bond, and listened to us take deep dives into both the Sonic and Halo franchises.
Also, if you're an anime fan, then don't forget to check us out on our sub-series, Chatsunani, where we dive into the world of anime. So far, we've reviewed things like Death Note, Princess Mononoke, and the hit Beyblade series.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and all good podcast apps.
As always, stay safe,
Stay awesome, and most importantly,
Stay hydrated.
Greetings! My name is Robotic Battle Toaster. I'm a variety game streamer on Twitch. There, I play a range of both multiplayer and single-player games. You can also find me on Twitter and in my Discord server, where you can vote what games I play. And, of course, join in on the fun and back-and-forth banter in a relaxed and safe environment. I hope to see you there. So, without any further ado, let's get back to Chatsunami. Ta-ta!
And we are back. So, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is a very interesting film plot-wise, because as we were talking about before, the first film is very much a buddy road trip film. The second one kind of leans more into the games, and it has to try and, again, realism's the wrong word, but it has to be a lot more grounded in comparison to what they could get away with in the games, you know, with the spin dashing and whatnot. But for the third film, it almost feels like a Dragon Ball Z film at times. It focuses, of course, on, and if you haven't seen the marketing for this film, it was very heavily advertised. It follows the story of, well, Sonic and team coming across a new alien life form called Shadow the Hedgehog, of course, which that 5-year-old was very enthusiastic to let all of the cinema know when I went to see this. He, of course, breaks out looking for revenge, and along the way, he teams up with a very interesting group of villains, I want to say, but we will, of course, get onto that. I don't want to make it sound more dramatic than it is. It's like a story of loss and revenge and things, but there are some really heartfelt scenes in this film, surprisingly, isn't there?
Yeah, there are some very sweet scenes, even just from the very, very start of the movie, with the celebration of his sort of time on Earth and family he's now made. And then they have the different side with Maria and Shadow. There's lots of very heartfelt moments throughout.
Yeah, because I just want to touch on that about Maria and Shadow. In all seriousness, going to the games, the relationship between Maria and Shadow is like a very core aspect of that character. Did you know much about this before you went into the film?
I had some understanding of the Maria and Shadow relationship prior to going into this, just based on the games I played and the cartoon series. I was very young at the time, so I didn't fully understand what the deal was there, I don't think. But I'm pretty sure they were both in space for the most of it, not in this bunker.
They definitely changed that for the film. Again, I think it's going to this idea they wanted to keep it a little bit more grounded, which...
Quite literally.
Well, yeah, quite literally, which kind of defeats the purpose when they end up in space anyway, so I don't know why they didn't just have a space station.
I guess they needed a reason to explain why people hadn't questioned this giant space laser just floating in the sky previously.
That's not a space station, that's an ESPN satellite. Ah, okay.
You want to see me hit some sluggers?
50 years ago? Yes. They also changed a really weird thing about Maria's backstory, and I don't actually know if they alluded to it or if it's like deleted content or whatnot, but honestly, some of my favourite bits of this film was the flashback scenes, and I kind of wish at times we got a little bit more of it, because, again, going back to the games, Shadow is really defined by the loss of Maria, because what ends up happening is, you're completely right, they live on the space colony Ark, it's called, and Maria is suffering from this autoimmune disease that basically the reason she lives there is, I think it's easier for her to live there with her grandfather, and of course she plays with Shadow and whatnot, but then what ends up happening is the station ends up getting raided by GUN, the military of this film and of the games, and then Shadow and Maria are trying to escape. They end up shooting her, which which became a bit of a meme within the fan base, because I think when you think of Sonic, you think of Fast Blue Hedgehog, oh, look at the rings, Green Hill Zone. And then you've got this really dark story in space where children are getting shot in the face. You know, it was quite dark. So I think a lot of people were expecting that to happen in the film, which it technically does, but not obviously in the same way, because there is no way in hell this film would be a PG if it was.
Yeah, she dies from an explosion, doesn't she?
Yeah, they shot the glowing orange barrel, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a very video game moment of like, oh no, not the radioactive exploding goo.
My eyes, the goggles do nothing.
I didn't quite understand in the movie what the motivation for Gerald Robotnik was like, we have to go. What was the explanation for that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he just wanted to get Shadow away. And again, you'll hear this a lot in the episode, Andrew, I apologise in advance, but in the games, Shadow is made from alien DNA. Why he turns into a hedgehog, I don't know. That was a Sega decision. But in this film, because Sonic and Co are already technically classified as aliens, because they're from different planets, I think that they just stuck him in a comet and just threw him to space, and he wanted to try and get him out of there. That's one of the problems that I did have with these flashback scenes, because later on, not to spoil too much for the finale, but later on you see how devastated Gerald Robotnik is about the loss of Maria, but I just wish there was more time to build up that relationship between the two, because obviously, you know, a grandfather is going to be very devastated if the grandchild is taken from them like that, but I just wish there was more.
There was a moment at the very end where Gerald said to Ivo, you're no Maria, and clearly showing he always prioritized Maria, and Maria's the only one that mattered to him. But we didn't see him and her interact at any point in the flashbacks except when they were running away, and there was no real dialogue between the two of them. Maybe there were some deleted scenes during the flashbacks where they were interacting more. All we see really of Gerald is him being a bit of an asshole on the same kind of level as Ivo. And so we don't really see that humanity to him that would endear Maria to him. And so I think that was lacking from the movie. We kind of just got the comedic and dastardly villain side of Joe Robotnik, but we didn't get to see him caring for Maria.
That underpins a really severe problem that I have with the film. Overall, I genuinely think that this film is a great watch and everything, and I think that Sonic fans, non-Sonic fans, you are going to enjoy it. But I feel as if, and I don't know if you felt the same way, and it sounds so weird to say it like this, but this film, and I think it's a problem for the entire series, not just this film, but I feel as if the film is too afraid to be serious at times. It doesn't ruminate on a scene, or it doesn't say, oh right, this is a terrible thing that's happened. They always have to throw in a quip or a joke directly after it. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
That's unfortunately what movies are like now.
Yeah.
It's very much a not wanting to rest on an emotional kind of moment for more than a few seconds, that you immediately want to be like, don't think about this thing that made you sad just now. Here is funny fart noises. A lot of movies are aimed at a younger audience. That is what they're now. And like kids like that. We're adults. These movies aren't made for us. We're never going to get the Citizen Kane Sonic movie. That's not what's going to happen. It's a movie for children, and we take what we can from it, and we enjoyed it.
I can live in hope, damn it.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
The film noir of Big the Cat.
Oh God, don't give me hope here. Someone get James Cameron on the phone.
It was 7 p.m. and Froggy was missing.
Who should I have to put up with?
I put my cigarette out on the windowsill, looking out into the dark night again. When will that Froggy come home?
I'm sorry to think he'll never come home. I don't even know where I am. Did you hear about that, by the way? This is a complete side tangent, but did you hear he was supposed to be a cameo in the second film?
No.
Yeah, no, Big the Cat was supposed to be a cameo.
What context?
I think it was supposed to have his skeleton at one point.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's exactly my response to it. I was like, oh, that would have been cool. Big the Cat was going to be a cameo in it. And it was like, yeah, it was just going to be skeleton. I was like, what? What the hell is wrong with you? Thank God they cut it, mind you, because we're going to get peak, obviously, with Sonic 4 when he inevitably comes up as the big bad. But For legal reasons, that's a joke. He's not in this film, unfortunately.
Those kinds of characters, you'd imagine you won't see till like Sonic 5.
Either that or when they start branching out into more TV series, I think they'll probably start
Maybe
doing...
the cat gets his own spin-off series.
Oh, God, it would be so good.
No, it wouldn't.
Oh, it would.
It would be so bad. Imagine like an angler fishing show with the cat.
Who would you even get to voice Big? Who would your dream casting be for that? No pun intended, dream casting, haha.
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage, that would be... I could see that working. I'm gonna get you, Froggy.
Tom Holland.
Oh, no, please. He is turning into the Chris Pratt.
Zendaya to play Froggy.
That'd be amazing.
You'd be like Vin Diesel playing Groot. She's just make ribbit noises. They can't just use one ribbit noise, just do a unique ribbit noise every time.
For every language, yeah. What does a frog sound like in Spanish?
Rabito.
A rabbit. But anyway, our fan fiction aside, I have to say, and again, you're going to hear this a lot about the games versus the movies, and don't get me wrong, I do appreciate that the movies are trying to do their own thing and everything, but for the games, you can see that Gerald Robotnik, he was very much a lot more a straight character in comparison to the goofy antics of his, what did I say, grandson, Ivo Robotnik, whereas in this, they seem very much on par until it's suddenly inconvenient. And I know people have said, oh, it was just he was manipulating his grandson by acting like an idiot and things.
No, I disagree with that claim. I think they are supposed to be pretty much identical.
Because that whole dance sequence in the middle, there is no way you would put that on as an act to get someone on your side. See, if you were trying to get me on your side to blow up the planet, would you do a dance sequence like that with me? Or
yes.
This is a hypothetical question for legal reasons, but it did seem a bit goofy. And this is something that Adam and I talked about when we were speculating about what the third film would entail when we were reviewing the second film. And I don't know, I kind of wish that they cast a different actor for Gerald Robotnik. What do you think about that? Like, I think Jim Carrey did a great job as both, but I don't know, I don't think they could have had the serious with the comical with that character. What are your thoughts?
No, I think they did the right thing. I liked how they portrayed Gerald in every way, but what I said earlier about there needing to be a bit more of an emotional moment with Maria. I think without that, it just becomes the same character and you don't really gain that kind of motivation for his revenge.
You're completely right. Literally and figuratively, you did have two of the same characters on screen. It almost reminds me of, and I think it's just because I've watched this film recently, but have you seen Trolls?
The first one?
Yeah,
I have with my nieces a long time ago, yeah.
You know that really awkward scene where it's like they ask that troll why he doesn't sing anymore, and then he just yells about one of his relatives dying out of nowhere? It turned into a meme, but you know at the end where he's like, oh, you're no Maria to Robotnik and everything, and you're thinking, I mean, that is a cold line, that is brutal, but there's not as much weight behind it, other than obviously assuming that they had a very good relationship, and even the exposition that they said, oh, he brings her everywhere, etc. But the other weird thing about it is, and I don't know if you felt this way as well, and don't worry, I do have positives about this film, but did you feel the pacing, at least in the first half of the film, was like really off?
Like it was very slow?
No, the opposite. It was really fast, but not in a good way, quite choppy.
I can't say I noticed that. I don't think it was badly paced. They did kind of jump from the forests to they're now in Tokyo a little bit.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the worst pacing I've ever seen in a film, because I have seen many terrible films with significantly worse pacing, but it's just, I felt as if, and maybe it's because I've seen the trailer so many times, but it felt as if it was almost like a checklist of, oh look, here's Sonic in the forest, now here's Sonic in Tokyo, oh now this character's dead. Like when they went to the Chow Cafe, which I have to admit I did appreciate because of the Chow Gardens and the games and everything, I think that's the closest we're ever going to get to having the Chow Gardens back, either in the games or the film, but I thought that was a really cool callback. But then they had that meeting with the gun general. Literally, it was a Poochie moment where it was like, I must go, the script is telling me to, and it's like General Walters or whatever his name is died on the way back to, I don't know, the Chow Cafe. You're like, hey, and I know they obviously have to keep it going quite fast.
I'd seen the Chow Garden promo stuff prior to the movie, but when he said we need to go somewhere safe, I thought they we're going to go to Olive Garden.
Maybe the sponsorship for that's run out.
Maybe, yeah. Because for those who aren't aware, there was a weird multiple callback joke in the first Sonic movie about Olive Garden being an amazing place to go, and the general gives Tom and Maddie a gift card to Olive Garden. And it's not even like a large gift card, it's like $20 or something.
It is a funny joke, but at the same time, it's clearly product placement. You're like,
yes. Yes, it's very much a case of Paramount used that. That's probably how they funded the redesign for Sonic. They're like, shit, call all the random chain Italian restaurants you can think of. We need some money for this project.
Do you know what's a crime, actually? That they didn't get the Sonic restaurant.
People have mentioned this before about how has there not been a collaboration. I guess there was already maybe a legal back and forth with Sega and that restaurant chain, so they might not have the best of terms with each other.
I'm not going to lie, for the longest time I genuinely thought that they were linked together in some way.
Yes, when I first heard of the restaurant chain, I thought that it was linked to Sonic the Hedgehog, and quickly learned soon after that that was not the case. I went to one actually I think I went to one in Vancouver. It was alright.
And again, both of us being, of course, British and you being in Canada, we don't really have as many of these restaurants. Well, I say that, but there's a lot of American restaurants now coming over. Like Taco Bell's only just came over in the last couple of years. Denny's as well, which was not well received. We even got a Popeyes here at one point.
All three of those things you mentioned are terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Why they're coming, I don't know. But
you know what annoyed me? No end.
Do tell.
We got Pret a Manger over here.
Oh.
And I was like, we've got a million terrible coffee places over here already. Bring Greg's. Why no Greg's? I want Greg's.
I don't know. Maybe Greg's just needs a flag. They'll just go to America and be like, okay, this shop's ours. And then they'll just expand like I don't want to call them a parasite, but you know
well,
what I mean?
That's the thing. Like, sounds like the perfect match for North America. I do not understand how handheld meat pies haven't become such a popular option. And it isn't. There just is nothing like that.
It's terrible. Anyway, next week's episode will be a Satsunami on why there's no pies in America. Yeah, I don't actually think there's much product placement as far as I remember. I could be totally blanking out American-centric stuff, unless there's one where Sonic looks down at the camera and drinks out a Pepsi can or something, or goes to Pizza Hut. But yeah, going back to that particular scene, yeah, I just kind of felt as if they didn't really linger on it. And then, of course, they introduced, what's her face? Was it General Miller or something like that? I can't even remember.
It was a very familiar name to me. I felt like I've heard that in like a game, maybe.
I don't know. I couldn't recognise her at all. Because the thing is with Gun, they're very much a side antagonist next to Eggman. It doesn't matter whether you're playing as Team Dark or Team Sonic or whatever. There's always going to be, well, not always, but usually at the other end of it, you've got Gun trying to prevent some kind of catastrophe, which they do try to. But I feel as if, especially for these films, they're kind of the comedic villains. You know, you've got the serious villain in Gerald, and then you've got the Team Rocket, or not Team Rocket, but you know what I mean, the bumbling ones.
Director Rockwell,
that's it, thank you. I genuinely cannot remember her name because she kind of just appears and then disappears. And no offence to the actress, because she does a good job, all things considered, with her character.
Yeah, Kristen Ritter just is there in the movie.
Yeah.
She doesn't really do anything particularly interesting, but the role doesn't really call for it. And again, it's a kids movie.
Although then again, she is the butt of a very funny yet politically incorrect joke. Do you remember that?
No, which one was that?
When they're trapped in the gun vault and Robotnik says, "Oh, I can't believe this," obviously meaning that he can't believe they've got caught, and Gerald saying, "I know, a woman in the military."
Oh, right, yeah.
The way I spat out my drink, I'm not gonna lie, I did not expect a joke like that in this film. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be like a fish out of water kind of, he's from a different time kind of thing. But it also seemed kind of odd because he also seemed to have been keeping up with movies and TV shows the last 50 years. So it's not like he's completely ignorant of how times have progressed, because he had watched all the things that Ivo had brought up to him when they were going back and forth on references.
I feel as if with Gerald, there is a lot of inconsistencies. And again, this is obviously nitpicking, because at the end of the day, I think overall he was done quite well, but there are a lot of inconsistencies that they don't know whether to make him this evil scientist or this kind of broken genius, or they just want him as the kind of funny parallel to Robotnik. Kind of feels all over the place. But again, I think it holds together just enough, that way, that it is not enough for me to go, oh, the film's ruined, Gerald never again kind of thing. But yeah, speaking of that though, can we go on to a positive here about both the actors and the voice actors for this film?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I have to say, I think everybody did a fantastic job. We've of course got Ben Schwartz back as Sonic, we've got Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Tails, Idris Elba coming back as Knuckles, as great as ever.
Colleen is the only one who's reprised from the games as well, isn't she?
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about, there's a whole discussion about this with celebrities taking over voice acting jobs, and I feel as if that's probably only going to get worse when Sonic 4 comes out. They'll get in a actor or an actress to voice these new characters rather than, I don't want to say a proper voice actor or voice actress, because I do think that the characters here, they do a fantastic job as is, because we've also got Keanu Reeves, who debuts as Shadow, and I have to say, I thought his Shadow was pretty good in this.
Yeah, to be honest, I knew it was Keanu Reeves going in, but I couldn't have told you that from just how he sounded. I think that he took over that role very well. Keanu Reeves is a pretty old actor now, but it didn't sound like an old actor was playing that role. He sounded very much like he fit in with the kind of young voices of the other characters. Likewise with Idris Elba. Idris Elba's Knuckles sounds quite childlike, which I think is very impressive for, again, an actor who probably is a similar age, if not even older, than Keanu Reeves.
And the thing I do love about this film, at least behind the scenes, that they all seem to be really enjoying themselves with it. You've got Idris Elba. I've seen him behind the scenes with the big Knuckles gloves that he's wearing as he's doing the voice recording. I love that. Again, Keanu, he is just absolutely throwing himself into it. Even at the premieres and things like that, you can tell they're all really excited to be there. That way you get press releases and things, and obviously we don't know the actors personally or anything, but when you get really awkward ones where they're all kind of sitting around and it's like, oh, tell me about this film, and they just kind of want to get it over with as soon as possible.
Yeah, they don't really have much passion for the project.
Yeah, where they're just like, oh yeah, it's a film, and then they bring out any excuse about, oh, it's a dramatic thriller, blah, blah, blah. But for this one, genuinely, they do seem to be absolutely having a ball with it. I think they're absolutely amazing. The one standout that I want to shout out is, and I think his name is Lee Majdoub, who plays Agent Stone.
Yes, he loves that role.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a post recently about how he was having a private screening and that he goes and meets the fans and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure this is the biggest project that he has done. I can't say I know him from any other role, so it might be that he thinks this has made his career, but I've not seen any of the actors quite as into their role as he is.
Would you believe? I think he was in Assassin's Creed at one point.
Oh, like the Assassin's Creed movie with...
Oh, no, the game.
Oh, the game. Oh, he was a voice actor.
Yeah, no, he was in Assassin's Creed Mirage, which I'm going to be honest, I haven't followed Assassin's Creed for a hot minute, but he was in that. He was also in Star Wars Outlaws as well. Wow.
Oh dear. That game didn't get received particularly well. He's mostly a voice actor from the looks of things.
Ah, he was in the Dragon Prince as well.
I did see that at the very top, yeah. I don't know that character though. My wife and I watched Dragon Prince and we're very into it. He might be that it's a character we've not met yet because we've not finished the latest season. It just came out quite recently. We were busy over Christmas time.
Busy watching Sonic 3, of course.
Yeah, of course. I was too busy watching Sonic 3. But yeah, no, he seems to have been in a few things, mostly voice acting, which is interesting.
In all seriousness, I do love how passionate he is about it, because as you said, he does really communicate a lot with the fans, and I've seen him do a lot of collaborations with them as well, like a lot of the bigger Sonic creators. There's a guy, I can't remember his name, I think it's Jack Botnick or something like that. It's a guy who dresses up as Eggman, but the old Eggman with the big circular body and everything, and he's moaning about not having a Chaos Emerald, and then all of a sudden Lee Majdoub comes out of nowhere and just gives him the emerald, and then he says, oh, where's my latte? And he sulks off saying, it's never enough for you, kind of thing. I think those kind of interactions and things and the positivity that he brings to the fan base is just absolutely incredible to see, because when I saw the first film, he wasn't bad, but he was just kind of there beside Jim Carrey. I don't think he did a bad job or anything, but it was the second film where he really came into his element. And of course, by the third one, I'm not going to lie, one of his scenes actually made me tear up, but we will get on to that. The only other thing that I want to praise, before we talk about the finale, the only other thing I want to praise about this film is just how dedicated it was to the amount of references and Easter eggs. Did you pick up on a lot of these when you were watching it?
I'm sure I picked up some of them. It did make me smile seeing some of the Easter eggs. I can't think of them off the top of my head right now because it's been like a week since I saw it. There was a lot of moments where I was like, oh, this is a very nice kind of homage to the games. Do you have any in specific that you want to reference?
Well, at the beginning, you've got the, at the end of certain stages.
We hit the sign and it spins. Yeah, that was one of my big ones. That really made me smile when he did that.
There was also a lot of references and callbacks for obvious reasons to Sonic Adventure 2, which I absolutely adored. This is me going into full fanboy mode here. At the very beginning, when we open up with Shadow and Maria, and Shadow thinking back to his time with Maria, and she's playing Live and Learn, which is the main theme of Sonic Adventure 2. My God, the smile on my face, it did not go away for a good while. I was just like, oh my God, that is perfect. There was also a quote, see when they were in the helicopter, and Sonic says, no food or movies, we're out of here. That's of course a nearly word for word quote of what he says to the gun helicopter. And again, Sonic Adventure 2, there's just a lot of references to that game, and honestly, I loved every single one. There was also, the bio lizard, the big lizard that you have to fight in Sonic Adventure 2.
Made of like water?
No, it's the one that attaches itself to the space station at the end of the game.
Oh, vaguely, yeah.
Well, apparently there was a reference to that, which I didn't pick up on initially, but it's, when they're watching the Kaiju movie, apparently that was meant to be the bio lizard, and I thought, oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, really blink and you miss it kind of scene, but genuinely, I thought all of those were absolutely fantastic, and of course, they finally got the music score right.
Yes, I wanted to touch on that just briefly. Better than they had done for previous movies, they understood the Sonic assignment for the music, particularly when they jump out of that helicopter down to Tokyo and you got this like butt rock playing. It felt very Sonic game. It got me very hyped up as like a 29-year-old man in the cinema.
Did you pick up the song that was playing on Robotnik's, I want to say hand phone, when he's on his phone?
Yeah, is it the Green Hill music?
No, it's his theme from, again, Sonic Adventure 2, where it's literally called Eggman, and it was played for literally 2 seconds, but I was just like, oh my God, they did it. But they didn't, of course, play more of it, which was a bit of a sin.
The music that Maria was listening to was the Shadow. Was that not also a reference to something?
I think, but I could be wrong. The thing about these films is, at least for the first one, they barely had any music from the games. The second ones, they kind of had touches of it. They had a little bit more, but not as much. And then in the third one, this one, they have, again, I wouldn't say they overwhelm you with it, but they do have a lot more gaming scores in it. But then also they have to put in their own outdated songs, like when Robotnik and Gerald are dancing, and they have that song which is, I don't even know, I can't even remember what that song's called, but that is definitely A, not a Sonic song, and B, not really a new song, is it?
No, I can't think of it.
I remember when Adam and I were discussing the second one and he was really angry, or not angry, but annoyed because they had Uptown Funk in it, and he couldn't understand why that was the song that they chose, considering at the time of that film coming out, I think it came out in 2015, I want to say, that song, or really, really early in comparison to when the film came out 2 years ago, so, or technically 3 years ago, but...
Yeah, I think Uptown Funk came out in like 2013. That movie came out in what, 2021, 2022?
2022, yeah.
Yeah, so at that point, 9-year-old pop song, who are you aiming that towards? I mean, again, maybe the children liked it.
But the children wouldn't know that song, though. In the Knuckles series, it is atrocious for that, because as far as I remember, I don't think they have any songs from the games, but I kid you not here, they get to this Vegas bowling ring or something, I can't even remember where it is, it's like Nevada or somewhere, but they end up playing Robbie Williams' Let Me Entertain You for one of the characters coming in, and I remember just sitting there thinking, who is this for? It's essentially the question, because I mean, kids won't know this song, and the people who are old enough to know it probably won't be watching this, and the ones that are, I'm sorry, you had to suffer through it. But the music choices, I have to admit, are a bit bizarre, except for one major one, fun. And that brings us on to the finale. So are you ready to dive into this?
I am, but I have one quick question about, is in the Knuckles series where Wade says, like, flames of disaster?
That is the one, yeah.
Okay, because I was waiting throughout this entire movie for that scene. I thought it was going to be in this movie for some reason. And I was like, that doesn't happen at any point. Where are the flames of disaster?
Do you want to know a fun fact about that? The flames of disaster in relation to the games?
What?
So the flames of disaster comes from Sonic 06.
Amazing. The best game.
Well, of course, but do you know what's even worse about it? The flames of disaster isn't a Knuckles move or anything. It's basically the combination, like there's a huge lore reason, but anyway, it's a huge cataclysm event where if these two deities combine together, then these flames of disaster literally destroy the entire world. So when the Knuckles series came along, and again, spoilers for the Knuckles series, they had the one episode which, ironically enough, is the best episode of the series, where they have Wade dressed up as Knuckles and the rest of them are puppets, and they have the main antagonist from, or one of the main monsters from Sonic 06 browsing Facebook Marketplace, and that's where Knuckles learns the flames of disaster. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't know how to respond to that either, because it is...
Do I need to watch the series? Is it worth watching?
Well, it's got Michael Bolton singing at one point.
I mean, I do love me some Michael Bolton.
I genuinely don't know. I mean, not to shout myself out here, but I do have an episode of Chatsu Shorts on it. I'm going to be honest, I don't know who the show was for, because Sonic fans are going to be confused. Non-Sonic fans, I think, are going to be even more confused.
It's like a kids-friendly kind of show?
Yes, kind of.
There's no kids in it, is it? It's just adults. And Knuckles isn't in it very much, from what I understand.
Yeah, because it's expensive. But what's actually hilarious is, see if you look at behind the scenes for it, they obviously have to have a stand-in to get the actors to look in the right direction. And in some scenes, he's just a puppet. It's the same with Shadow in this film as well. You see Maria holding the tank. The tank, Shadow is a Muppet, and it is amazing. And that's what people are saying. They're like, release the puppet cut of Sonic the Hedgehog. Honestly, if the Muppets did Sonic, I would be 100% behind it.
I think I must have said this in our previous Muppets Christmas Carol episode. There needs to be more Muppets movies.
Oh, there does.
Muppets in general, yes, but like Muppets making their own version of existing properties needs to happen more. And if Sonic is the first one, I'm down. Gonzo playing Sonic, amazing.
You know that show that's on Amazon just now? I think it's called Secret Levels, where it's like an anthology series for video games, and they take a random video game and then they create a short 10-minute film, or I wouldn't say film, but a 10-minute episode based on that game. They should do that, but with the Muppets. They just choose different games, and instead of being hyper-realistic motion tracking and whatnot, they should just have the Muppets instead. Anyway, sorry, getting off topic, but our shattered dreams aside, yeah, well, we go on to the finale of this film, aka the point that I utterly fanboyed out.
Yeah, let's go to it.
Yeah, because of course you get that really weird scene where Sonic gets the Chaos Emeralds from Wade, the Flames of Disaster Whipple.
He's playing a hockey with it.
Because I think the reference when Knuckles says, oh, I left it with a very brave warrior, that, again, weirdly enough, that's a reference to the Knuckles show, because Wade wants to be the bowling champion or some rubbish, and he teaches him how to become a warrior, and honestly, I'll send you the link where to see it, by the way. It's weird. So he gets the Chaos Emeralds, he tries to beat down Keanu Shadow, and of course Shadow is taking none of it. Shiano, exactly. I did actually like and I don't know if this was intentional or not as a reference, but there's a scene where Super Sonic is trying to absolutely hand his ass to him, but then Shadow knocks the Chaos Emeralds out of him.
I know, I was like, Jesus, that was extreme.
I don't know if that's a reference though to Sonic 3, because at the very beginning of Sonic 3, the one for the Mega Drive, there's a scene where Super Sonic at the very beginning, he's flying through Angel Island, and then Knuckles comes out of nowhere and punches the emeralds out of him. So I don't know if that was meant to be like a kind of cheeky nod to that or not. Maybe not.
I think Shadow should have done that move where he, for no reason, just flips and then kicks the back of Sonic's head.
We're waiting for that for the fourth film.
Who is it he does that too? It's a
Silver.
time traveler. Yeah, it's Silver, the time traveling hedgehog.
AKA Trunks the Hedgehog, yeah.
Get he is Trunks, isn't he? They love it being Dragon Ball because they've already got the Goku and Vegeta-ness and the Super Saiyan-ness and all that kind of stuff.
Honestly, you should have been on the internet at the time when Sonic 06 came out and Silver dropped, because the amount of Dragon Ball references and things that came out, it was beautiful. Going on to the finale, we've of course got the big fight that they've advertised very heavily, surprisingly, where they're fighting across the world, and it is very Dragon Ball-esque. It's actually a lot more Dragon Ball than Dragon Ball Evolution.
Oh yeah, they pulled it off very well, actually.
Surprisingly so. And I know technically you could say, oh, it's because it's animation, but they still have to relatively, again, be a bit grounded when they're trying to fight one another.
That's something I want to sort of touch on just very quickly as well.
Yeah.
Over all three of these movies, they managed to pair the computer-generated animation with the live-action setting better than I think I've seen, at least from any movie in the last decade. It fits so well whilst having beautiful, vibrant colours. When the three of Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails are on screen, it should look wrong with these super vibrant coloured CGI animals in a realistic setting, but they fit so well. It looks beautiful, the colours are beautiful. I was pretty in awe of how well they managed to do this, and that it becomes a template for how you can incorporate video game adaptations like this.
Yeah, it's really surprising how good this film looks, because even at the very beginning where Shadow fights the GUN agents and everything, again, you know, it's obviously a cartoon hedgehog, but you can kind of believe that he's there in the scene. It doesn't feel as if you get the really dodgy animation and whatnot, and even when he's standing in Tokyo and he's got the wet fur and whatnot. And funny enough, they actually reference, see the Shadow the Hedgehog game, something I didn't bring up earlier, but see the scene where he beats up Team Sonic and then Sonic collapses in front of him and he's holding the gun, the actual, well, the laser gun, obviously they have to have. That's taken from the intro of Shadow the Hedgehog, fun fact.
Yes, so he has the gun, he gets on the motorbike and stuff. And I thought that seemed to be a reference as well that I thought was fun. What is with his teleportation powers?
So I don't know how they're going to explain it in the movie universe, but it's basically he can harness the power of the Chaos Emeralds. That's what it is in the games, that he takes a Chaos Emerald, he yells Chaos Control, and it means he can manipulate time and teleport in places.
Oh, right, okay. Because I thought he was just like Sonic was running fast as well, but just edgy. But he can actually manipulate time with chaos energy.
I think in the films, they just say he's got a lot of stored up chaos energy, like with Sonic, you know, when his eyes turn blue in this one, which is something they've only started doing. Weirdly enough, they did that in Sonic Frontiers, where his eyes turn blue if you get the maximum amount of rings, and then you can go faster and things like that. It's interesting they're going that route. I didn't expect them to copy the film for that, but yeah, it's probably just that he's just got a heck of a lot of energy. He's got the zoomies, is what I'm saying, the chaos zoomies, to be able to do that kind of thing. But of course, because of that, at the very end, you've got the fight between them, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. And then you've got Shadow and Sonic fighting one another, and it's probably the best part of the film, if not one of the best parts, where after this fight and Shadow starts goading him and mocking him, saying, oh, kill me because I killed your friend, even though he didn't, because again, PG film. And then they have a really nice heart-to-heart on the moon, which I never thought they would do. But actually, that was a scene that I didn't tear up, but my partner teared up at that, because they brought back, I can't remember the exact quote, but you know, about the stars, even though they might be dead, their light still shines and everything in relation to Maria. It was actually really beautiful for that. I was really taken aback, because I thought, see, when they want to be serious, without, you know, being uber dark and edgy, they genuinely can be serious, which they do kind of spoil later on. But before we get onto that particular scene, because I think you know the scene I'm going to talk about, what did you think about that whole sequence? See, when they finally get together and then they do the Predator hand clap and they turn super together. Other than the fact that looks absolutely incredible. What were your thoughts on that?
My first thought was, how do they breathe on the moon?
I think that's established in the games, but why? I don't know.
Yeah, I was quite confused. Initially, I was like, oh, okay, they're in their supersonic kind of mode that probably protects them, allows them to breathe in space. And then they were just like chilling there, not in supersonic mode. And I was like, oh, so they can just do that then. But no, when they both sort of teamed up, went all supersonic-y and went and tried to stop the laser beam, it was a very cool scene. It was pretty hype. And then they team up with Eggman and push the laser beam away from the Earth. And it then chops off the bottom of the moon. Nothing was mentioned after that. So that, A, would affect the tides and make tsunamis and stuff happen.
Chat tsunamis, if you will.
Very good. And B, are those moon bits not just going to fall into the earth now and just cause a similar level of destruction to what you just avoided?
It's fine. Because, to be honest, I thought that this is something, again, that happens in Sonic Adventure 2, where Dr. Eggman gets control of the space colony Ark and he fires the Eclipse cannon into the moon. It's a low-powered setting, because he puts in one Chaos Emerald. He's like, hey guys, check out what I can do. And he fires it at the moon as a kind of warning, and it blows up a huge chunk of the moon, which is such a cool scene. But of course, in this film, they get rid of the space colony Ark completely, and then they just have a super weapon under the Thames River. Don't know how they feel about that, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I also questioned how they managed to build that.
I get it's a Sonic film and everything, suspension of disbelief. Oh, there's a super weapon, but under London? Really? London?
Famously, there's an underground rail network down there, so it'd be pretty difficult to fit in a secret base where your giant space thing is, which had to be less wide than the width of the Thames River, though, so it can't really have been that big.
But then you see it and it's like massive.
Oh yeah, it's like the size of London.
Although what I did love, and I was actually creeped out by it, was see the broadcast that they do from the... from the news anchors, and it's like, that's great journalism there, where it's like, okay, nobody panic, guys, but there's a super weapon that's just been stolen. We're all gonna die. How you doing? And I thought, Jesus Christ, they are really not calming people down there.
Yeah, and they were like, everyone stay inside. I'll be honest, I'd probably ask them to evacuate, maybe go to a bunker or something.
I'm going to be honest, Chief, I don't think that's a great idea. That scene where they shoot the moon, I genuinely thought they were going to shoot the moon before that scene. And I know it's a reference to the games and everything, but they also show it in the trailer.
See, you're saying all these things got given away, but I didn't see any of this.
Again, I think it's more a Paramount problem with their PR, that they give you nothing and then they give you too much if you keep looking at it. And I know obviously I could avoid it by not watching it, but if you're constantly exposed to these particular trailers, there's a lot that they reveal that they probably shouldn't have. But yeah, going back to that, obviously Gerald has that really cruel line of saying, oh, I never loved you, oh, Maria was better than you, and everything, which I thought was really chilling. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a really, again, emotional moment. You cut between quite possibly one of the coolest things that Sonic has ever produced versus one of the lamest things that Sonic's ever produced. As I said, you've got the Predator high five, and they turn super and they destroy all the robots, which again, they are modelled after the ones from the games, the GUN robots, and it was so damn cool. And you've got Live and Learn blasted in the background. I was just so happy. And then my happiness reached a crescendo and it reached a peak, and then it immediately dipped when I saw Jim Carrey spanking himself.
I do have to say that was a very weird scene. I'm not quite sure why they did that.
I mean, I still laughed, but I laughed quite confused, you know, that way where you're like, that was a choice. I just hated that whole sequence, you know, when it kept cutting back to Robotnik versus Gerald, and they were using the nanobots as arachnids. You're like, why are you fighting like a mantis versus a scorpion? Why did that have to be the climax of the film? I mean, don't get me wrong, I did find it funny the way Gerald died in it, where it was very much as if a fly was being swatted, or zapped rather, but yeah, I did not like that. I felt as if it was a bit much.
Oh yeah, that was a very odd scene. The weird praying mantis versus scorpion thing was a very weird back and forth fighting.
And again, then you get the two coolest scenes with Sonic and Shadow teaming up, posing for posters on the camera and everything, and then it cuts back to them and you're just like, I don't want to see this. Because something I did notice was they definitely seemed to be moving away from the human characters. Did you notice this? And by human characters, I mean like Tom and Maddie and Wade especially, but you know, they were moving away from those kind of characters, except for obviously the main scene where they infiltrate Gunn. But did you notice that?
Yes, that was good, because that was one of my main criticisms in the second one. We spent so much time with Maddie's sister, Rachel. I don't care about her. She was funny in the small clips we had of her in the first one. The amount of attention we gave to her and her relationship with that agent was so bizarre. And then I was like, oh, we've not had her in this movie at all. That's great. And then for some reason, Maddie turns into her. Is she made an agent at the end of the second one, or in the Agent of Knuckles thing? Is that?
I have no idea. Genuinely, that confused me, because I know her partner is a gun agent, but I don't know if she was made a gun agent.
Why would you impersonate her?
Fortunately, we don't really get to spend a lot of scenes with those human characters, and I have to say, even the ones that we do spend with Tom and Maddie, aka Donut Overlord, at least they didn't feel like they overstayed their welcome.
Yeah, they kind of allowed the other characters to showcase a bit more, that we, as you say, we weren't bringing them into quite the same level of spotlight, which was nice that we are moving away from the need for that we can just kind of let the CGI animals do their thing.
Because, I mean, to be honest, in my ideal vision of a Sonic film, I really wish they would just go all into the world of Sonic.
Like into Mobius, or into like Mobius.
I got really bad
Morbin
flashbacks. It's Mobian time.
Gotta go Mobius.
More like that, because the games do kind of play about with humans in the world of Sonic, along with the anthropomorphic creatures, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of all fictionalized and whatnot, so having the real world and having to apply realism to all these cartoon hedgehogs and echidnas and foxes and whatnot, it kind of limits it in a way, but for what the film set out to achieve, especially with this film, I do think that they incorporated it in a really interesting and quite a good way, especially when it came to the finale where Shadow decides to push the space colony away. Robotnik ends up getting blown up for the third time at this point. Okay, maybe the second time.
In the first one, when he gets sent to the Mushroom World, you kind of be like, all right, he was pushed into the Mushroom World. He didn't die going into there. But the second one, he died. And then the third one, he died. And apparently he's going to come back for the fourth one, or at least Jim Carrey wants to.
Which will be amazing if it does, to be honest. But I have to admit, I got quite misty-eyed over that scene. And I can't believe that was the scene that got me, because the Maria one, you know, when they're talking about the light dying and everything, that was quite emotional. But see, when they was giving Agent Stone nice words of encouragement, saying his last goodbye and whatnot, I think that just caught me off guard, because, and again, Agent Stone isn't a Sonic character, he's not part of the games or the extended lore or whatever. Yeah, I can't believe I'm making this comparison, but he's almost become like, you know, Harley Quinn in Batman, that they've become such a popular character in one medium that you kind of hope that they appear in other things.
Well, you want Agent Stone to appear in the games?
Well, I honestly wouldn't mind if he did, to be honest.
You know, in Sonic Adventure 2, where you choose different teams, like Team Sonic, Team Shadow, it's just like Team Agent Stone.
Honestly, I'm all for it. Team Latte, let's go. I do think that he does have a good enough personality to be able to be at least endearing, because we have had that in the past with, I think it's Sonic SATM, where you had Eggman as just a horrible overlord, and you had, I think his name was Snively, and he was like this really weird person who just followed him around, and he was Robotnik's assistant. So I mean, there's a precedent there. He could have easily been in it, but genuinely, going back to that scene, I genuinely thought that was so heartbreaking. But you know, as soon as that scene's over, you know that he's going to be coming back anyway. I think it was just the fact that the two characters are just so well portrayed. Because I have to say, I didn't really expect to like Jim Carrey as Robotnik initially.
You didn't?
When I heard he was going to get cast, I kind of thought, oh, it's going to be Jim Carrey as himself. It's not really going to be Dr. Eggman. It's going to be Jim Carrey, and he's going to be, oh, look at me, I'm Jim Carrey. But the way he changed it and made it his own, he's very much his own Eggman. But I have to admit, I really like the way he plays Eggman, especially, although it was a bit of a disgusting scene, but you know, when he's watching the telenovelas and his giant egg crab, I think it's called, which I have to admit, that was a pretty funny scene. But I actually don't know, and this is something, I don't know if you've seen the meme about Shadow Latinas. Have you seen this?
Shadow Latinas?
No, Shadow and Latinas. There was a video made by someone called, I think it's Jet, his name is, but he does a lot of dubs of clips from the Sonic games, and he puts his own jokes over it, like Sonic and Shadow fighting one another, yelling that it's pronounced GIF, not GIF, etc. You know, like really silly shitpost videos, but one of them was Shadow is fighting Sonic, and Sonic says, why do you want to go to Mexico so bad? And the punchline is just Shadow turns around and says, because Sonic, I just love Latinas. And then he just disappears. And that joke honestly grew arms and legs.
Oh my god, that triggers me so bad, because
Why?
when my wife, my sister-in-law and I were heading to Toronto for Fan Expo this past summer, there was a gentleman at the train station with us while we were waiting for the train to go to Toronto, who was also going to Fan Expo and was trying to sort of start a conversation with us, particularly me. He clearly was a bit neurodivergent, and he kept trying to talk about his interest in Sonic.
Plot twist, it was me in disguise.
Particularly, he was talking about how he he wants to be a voice actor. Some of his favorite bits are from this one video thing. And then it was that exact reference you just made about the Latinas thing. And he said it so loud right next to us in a very crowded area. And like, it was such a weird, gross thing to say. I was like, oh no, people are going to think I'm with him and they're going to think that... But I'm also enjoying the Shadow X Latinas
community.
I was like, oh, okay, please leave.
Yeah, that's what that's from. Because I have to say, I don't think even the guy who made it expected it to take off. I think it was, one of those things where you post it online and you go, oh, what a funny video. That's never going to be mentioned again. And then, of course, unfortunately, with the Sonic fan base, and no offense to the Sonic fan base, because I made several episodes on the series and I'm sure you're a bunch of lovely folk, but when they get their hands on a particular joke that they really like, it's never going away. The other one was that Snapcube dub, which I don't know if you've heard about it, but by chance was this gentleman talking about pissing on the moon?
I think it was only the Latinas one that I remember, so I don't know.
A lot of Sonic fans reference that particular dub to the annoyance of some other fans, but that's a whole other conversation. It's like a bridged almost dub of the game for Sonic Adventure 2. Anyway, it's a very interesting artifact, let's just say. I don't know if that was meant to be a joke when Shadow's getting into the telenovelas and things, or it's just like a really, really weird coincidence. Although I do love his line, see, when Agent Stone turns around and says, come on, we're going to make guac. And Shadow turns around and goes, revenge guac. Then eventually, going off of that, the world is saved and everything. They have the party and everybody for some reason was really angry about the credits song. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I haven't seen any discourse about that.
I think it was just a vocal minority where they're like, oh, it doesn't fit, blah, blah, the usual. But then, of course, we've got the after credit scenes, which, before we finish up, will we talk about them briefly?
Yes. I should preface saying I only saw one of them, but I did read what the second one was after facts. I had to leave the cinema to meet up with people, and also I was desperate for the toilet by that point.
This is a running theme with you, isn't it?
I did go to the toilet once during the movie, so I didn't want to miss a single bit of it. I had drunk an obscene amount of soda, so I was like, I need to go so bad. It was touch and go towards the end of that film.
Genuinely, do you just go into the cinema and you're like, your largest Coke, please? Just the size of your head?
I went to the cinema with my wife and her family. They went to go see Wicked, and their movie was like an hour longer than mine. And so we timed it so that my film screening was one that started an hour later than theirs. And so I had to kill an hour prior to that. So I went to get some food and had a drink, and then went to the cinema and got my popcorn and drink, and the drink machine was out of Coke. I had to get a Fanta. I was like, all right, whatever. And then by the time the movie was about to start, I'd already finished my drink, and I was like, oh crap. So I had to run out. I ran out and managed to get a Coke, get back in the theater and sit down before the film started. And so I had essentially 3 things of soda over the course of the film, and so I needed to pee real bad.
First you missed Saruman, now you missed Sonic.
There was no Sonic miss. The only thing I missed was Shadow picking up his rings at the second end credit thing. I saw the first one, which involved Sonic finally doing his race again, and then defeating the Metal Sonics, which I thought they were going to tease a new big bad. I'm like, oh, that's weird that they bring in this key villain for an end credit scene here, but he's already going to face off against him. But then just easily defeated him, and then Amy arrived and smashed all the extra Metal Sonics. So we got the introduction of Amy, which is pretty cool. Do you know the confirmed voice actor for Amy is?
No, as far as I know, and that's something that was kind of alluding to before about future voice actors and actresses. I genuinely think they're probably going to go the celebrity route. I kind of hope they don't, but you know what it's like. See, for these particular films, you know that they're obviously going to try and get a celebrity, as long as they obviously have the budget for it. But I don't know if they'll get the actress from the games, or they're just going to get, I don't know. I don't even know who they would cast. I hope it's not someone like Scarlett Johansson or something they just kind of pluck out of a hat.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh no, Chris Pratt. Hey, it's me, I'm Amy.
And Zendaya is Amy.
Zendaya, oh no. Andrew, you've probably willed one of the worst things in the universe to reality there. It will be Zendaya, won't it?
Quite possibly, but what was quite funny is I was thinking earlier about the Muppets version of Sonic. Miss Piggy is Amy.
That would be amazing.
Frank Oz played Amy.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on that though, for Amy's voice acting?
Frank Oz.
Other than Frank Oz.
I don't know. It'd be nice if they got like an actual voice actor person to do it rather than just standard celebrity voice actor. It has to be Anya Taylor-Joy, and then so be it.
No offence to her, she's a good actress, but I don't know if I could cope with another film like that.
She was pretty medium as Peach.
Oh shoot, she was Peach, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And of course Chris Pratt as himself, as Mario.
Okay, so I was very much on board the hating Chris Pratt as everything train, but his Mario was pretty good.
The see, in all seriousness, as much as a meme as that is, he actually was pretty decent. It wasn't that bad.
Anya Taylor-Joy was pretty as Peach. Seth Rogen was pretty as Donkey Kong.
Oh no, he really was as Donkey Kong.
Otherwise, voice acting wasn't that bad in that movie. Seth Rogen to play Amy. Seth Rogen to play Big the Cat.
Oh no, please don't will that into the world.
Froggy.
You know they would as well.
Make Big the Cat a stoner.
What if they made Big the Cat Jack Black or something?
He's too energetic to play Big the Cat.
I yearned for the frogs. Oh god. One of the things that I'll be interested in for Sonic 4 is what direction they're going to take it, especially with Metal Sonic, because usually Metal Sonic, he is voiceless, but there's a kind of variation of him called Neo Metal Sonic, which is essentially just Metal Sonic with more spikes on his head, and he's got like a kick-ass cape. Honestly, it's so edgy, but it's so damn cool. But he has the voice, so I'm assuming they're going to go that direction, maybe, where they're going to have one Metal Sonic controlling them all.
Like Ultron.
Because for the third film, you could tell that they were obviously taken from Sonic Adventure 2. For the second film, they were definitely taken out from Sonic 2 and Sonic and Knuckles. For the fourth film, obviously, it's way too early because this film doesn't come out until 2027, so we have 2 years left to wait for this film. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to base it on Sonic CD, which is where Metal Sonic came in initially. It's going to be interesting. But before we wrap up, though, what are your predictions, though? See, for the fourth film, what are your kind of predictions and your thoughts in terms of where they're going to go with it?
I don't know, because my kind of knowledge of Sonic is pretty waned over the last couple of decades. I would have been able to quote various other kind of storylines and villains that we could go down the route of, but I don't really remember much anymore. They've explored a lot of the ones I am aware of. I think maybe something more to do with Knuckles as a kid in a temple prophecy kind of stuff, maybe. Introducing people like Silver might be an option. Going back to Mobius, as you'd mentioned, would probably be a decent one, because as you said, we've done 3 movies and we only were in Mobius for 5 minutes of the first movie. So with Amy coming in, and Tails came over as well, so there must be, they have the rings, I guess they can just go back anytime. I suspect Amy's going to come over and be like, we need your help, you need to come back to Mobius kind of thing. That makes the most sense to me. I did also think that one way of them getting Eggman to survive would be the explosion in the Eclipse cannon was like maybe charged like chaos energy and it teleported him to Mobius or something like that.
Because if they're going to base it off of Sonic CD, then the interesting thing about Sonic CD is that they introduced time travel in it, which sounds like such a weird thing, but there was signs that you could run by, and if you run by them fast enough, then they either transport you to the past or the future, and depending on how you complete the level, you can either get a good future or a bad future. So the good future would be all the flowers sprouting up, oh, it's a utopia. The bad future would be that it's a complete wasteland, it's all robotic and things. So I'm wondering if they're doing a thing like that where whatever planet Amy's going to come from has been overrun with Sonics, or hedgehogs, as it were, metal hedgehogs. Because there is that throwaway line in Sonic 3 where he says, "Why do you look like me?" So I don't know if they're going to explore hedgehog lore, as it were, more, or they're just going to do their own story. Because, I mean, time travel, obviously, that would bring back Eggman, as it were, from the Eclipse canon. So there's always an out for them. There's always an out for particular characters getting killed off, except for Gerald Robotnik, obviously. He's gone. I think he's genuinely gone for good. That's my kind of prediction. Because, see, in all seriousness, I genuinely thought they were going to bring in Silver for the end of the third film.
No, they can't bring in Silver before bringing in Amy. I'm surprised that we've not seen Rouge the Bat by now, to be honest.
Well, there's still time.
I think we're going to see Rouge in the next one.
Yeah, probably.
I think with Amy, we'll see Rouge. I think Rouge is going to encounter Shadow and they'll have like a team up.
Because I think it was meant to be and again, it's all rumours, but I think it was supposed to be like a TV show for Shadow that they were planning on doing. I don't think they actually, have put pen to paper on it yet, but I think that is the way they're going to go, to have a series in between films, which I would be on board with, but I'm going to be honest, I just did not like what they did with the Knuckles series. I thought it was quite bizarre and just very aimless in comparison to the films for obvious reasons. What actually did surprise me, and this is a complete side tangent as well, is I think it was called Dark Shadows. It was 3 animated shorts that were made for the promotion of Sonic X Shadow Generations, the video game, and those were incredible. Genuinely, those were really good, really well animated, fitted into the lore of the universe and everything, and I just wish we had more of those kind of shows. But see, to be honest, as a kind of concluding point, I do think that the films are doing a good job as it is. I like the way that they're going with it, but I think that people have to realise, myself included, is that these aren't the games. They're basing their stories off the games and things, but they're very much doing it in their own way, which is a very Sonic thing to do, I have to say. But it'll be interesting to see, I think, where they take it from here, whether they are going to follow the games or they're just going to go off the wall and do something completely different. But yeah, what are your final thoughts on that?
Not so much more than what we've already said, just I think that just kind of further exploring the Sonic world and Sonic characters, I think that's just going to be the direction we're now going to be going. I think we've set a standard with the third one of returning to more of the game-like storylines, and that we're kind of, again, as we were talking about, heading further away from the human characters and kind of getting more into the Sonic characters. I think we'll be seeing more of that to come.
And honestly, if you haven't seen this film and you're curious and you don't mind the spoilers you've just heard there, definitely go see this film, because genuinely, it's honestly amazing how far this particular film franchise has come in the past couple of years. Because as we said before, you started with the Buddy Road Trip film with the ugly design. You thought there is no way this is going to take off. It's just going to be relegated to the footnote of terrible video game adaptations. And yet now, 4 years later, or technically 6 years later, God, that's depressing. 6 years later from when they released the first Sonic film, we've now got a franchise that is very, very strong. And honestly, it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, whether they go the Disney route. Just start pumping out different shows and different characters, and to see how far they'll take that particular aspect. But you know what? Can't wait for it. Genuinely can't wait for it. In case anybody was wondering, yeah, absolutely love this film. Go watch it. Without any further ado, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on this episode to discuss Sonic 3.
No problem. I'm glad I finally got to do a Sonic episode with you. I know it's a topic that is dear to your heart, so I'm glad I got to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's been a long time in the making, hasn't it? We've been talking about it for ages, so I'm like, Father Ted, go on. Before we wrap up, where can these amazing Pandalorians listening find your content?
Pandalorians can find me on many previous episodes of Satsunami. We've done lots of episodes, including several Christmas-themed episodes and whatnot recently, and other themed month episodes we've got. And also you can find myself, Satsunami, Martin McAllister, and Robotic Battle Toaster on the D&D role-playing podcast series Stop, Drop, and Roll Initiative, which can be found, again, where all good podcasts are, and on Twitter at SDRIPod. So please do follow us on there. And without further ado, you want to do some more plugs, Satsu?
Oh, I would love to. So, yeah, as Andrew was saying there, if you want to check out more episodes from ourselves, then you can check us out on our website, chatsunami.com, as well as all good podcast apps. I just want to shout out our amazing Pandalorian patrons, Robotic Battle Toaster, Sonia, and Ghostie. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Honestly, it means the world to us. But if you would like access to exclusive episodes, early access, behind the scenes footage, then of course you can check us out on our Patreon page, patreon.com/chatsunami. But until next time, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly,
gotta go fast.
I was going to say live and learn, but that's just as good. But most importantly, stay hydrated.